What's up, everyone? This is Carlos from Coin Vigilante here. So today I am interviewing Al. So this is my first time that I interview a new guest, and so it's new to all of us. So Al, you're making history today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so I guess what I want to talk about today is I want to have just a crypto conversation. So I want to be able to talk to someone who shares kind of the same ideals. I don't know many people out there in person that can talk crypto with me. It's usually me trying to
Yeah,
explain everyone what it is, but never someone that can actually comprehend or be on the same page as me. So what I wanted to start with is I want to ask you, just a little bit about your background. It could be from
sure.
your work experience or to how you got into Bitcoin. I do
Mhm.
want you to talk a little bit about what got you into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and just a little bit of your background.
Sure. I'm a dentist. I live here in California, and I'm actually pretty new dentist. I've only been working for about 3 years or so.
Cool.
But the way I got into crypto was in 2017, but it wasn't the best time. But
Yeah.
it was a time when everybody heard about crypto, and I mean, it was in the news everywhere. So I had actually just graduated from university, and I was in process of getting my license. So I really wasn't doing anything. I was just like at home for 2 months straight, not doing anything. And I heard about Bitcoin somewhere on the internet. So I started reading a little bit about it, and then that was when I realized, like, whoa, like this is actually really, really interesting. And I don't remember the last time I had ever fallen that quickly into like this rabbit hole where you're just
Yeah.
watching one video on YouTube, and from there you're jumping to the next video and
Keep
the next
going.
video and the next video, and eventually I was probably waking up in the morning watching videos on crypto from morning to night for like a week straight. And then it was really funny because a friend from school, he actually called me. Like, I hadn't seen him in months. And he's like, dude, are you investing in crypto? And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like that's all I've been reading about every week.
Yeah.
And like my friend just called me to ask me, it was like a sign from God. And I was like this guy's also, he's like, dude, I've been doing the same thing. All I've been doing is just reading about it. It's crazy. He actually even wanted to start a mining company in like Spokane, Washington, like where electricity is super cheap. Like he wanted to go super hardcore. But from there, um, and I just kept on digging in. Actually, at first, Litecoin probably I fell for the usual FUD online. Like if you go on Reddit, like there's gonna be a bunch of
Yeah.
people saying Litecoin sucks, right? Um, that Charlie Lee's a scammer and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
that's actually the reason why I got into Litecoin, because I was like, I don't know, something. If so many people are saying it's a Litecoin isn't good or Charlie Lee's a scammer, like I kind of want to know why. So I started looking at interviews on Charlie Lee, and it was like this guy actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like everything this guy says is this guy is really smart, or he's really good at simplifying complex topics into simple things. So that's when I started really liking Litecoin, and I mean it's been around so for a long time, so I think it has a lot of history.
Yeah, for sure. So, I would say for me, it was actually my mom. I was in the middle of college, and I think it was
Mm-hmm.
my junior year, and it was in 2017, and it was around, I don't know, October, maybe a little bit before. So the mania
Mm-hmm.
was already insane. We were at the late
Yeah.
part of the cycle, and
Mm-hmm.
I got into Bitcoin. She was like, "You got to look into this right now because." There's this coin, and it's not like a stock. It's you can actually transfer it, and it has value, and it's instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wait a minute, what's this about? And then I made some research, and I kept digging in, and I'm like, this is insane. And to
Yeah.
me, what captivated me the most about Bitcoin, cryptos, and this whole space was the fact that, for example, Bitcoin, at least, and Litecoin, there's no central authority that can control Bitcoin. No one that can
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, you can't send this transaction to that bank. or you can't send this to that person in Venezuela or your family member or Mexico or, and I'm like, wow, that is like insane. And at that point, like I didn't even comprehend the magnitude of it. Now I do.
Yeah.
But at that point, I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, it's a coin. I look at the chart and I'm like, wow, it's going up in value tremendously. The fact that no one controls it, and then the scarcity aspect of it, to me, it kind of blew my mind. And so, those were my thoughts initially. And like the sad thing about that and funny thing is that me and my mom actually got into, accidentally into like a scam type of thing. So there was this thing
Mhm.
called Bit Petite where it's kind of like the Bit Connect. I don't know if you remember that, to
Yeah,
where
yeah.
basically the only way that business function is by keep bringing people in and putting money into the system, and then they would give you a higher percentage the more money you put in or whatever in return or something like that. So I think I put like 10 Litecoins into that, and at that point Litecoin was like worth
Oh,
$40
yeah.
or something. And within 3 weeks, and you were actually getting the returns, like literally 15% return on your
Wow.
Litecoin or more. Actually, it's not even 15%. It was like they were giving you outrageous amounts, like 50%. And
Yeah.
that business model was actually working for a long time. But in
Mhm.
3 weeks, you type bitpetite.com, website is gone. And so we lost all our
Oh my
Litecoin. A lot of
goodness.
people lost a lot of things. So that was my first kind of like intro to Litecoin and Bitcoin. And to me, it was a crazy, it's a crazy, ride with Litecoin and Bitcoin. And it kind of sucks that I got so late into the cycle, because what's funny is I kept buying. So I bought my first Litecoin at like 50, and then literally I woke up the next day and I saw it go to 150. Woke up the next day 200, and then it was when Litecoin got to what, $420. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
this is insane. And I'm like, man, this thing can go higher, higher, higher. And so I
Yeah.
bought like a Litecoin at like $360. And, I'm like, man, this is just insane. Like, when is it going to stop? And all of a sudden the market crashes. Boom. I mean, it was crazy, right? I mean, basically, I lost all of my money. I
Definitely.
didn't sell it, but I basically got that experience of buying a little bit early, then buying the top. And one thing that, I want the audience to kind of understand is, it was this last bear market. I mean, the prices of cryptos were incredibly suppressed. I mean, Bitcoin dropped 90%, Litecoin dropped
Mhm.
97%. And
Yeah.
throughout that ride, when we were dropping, I mean, I kept thinking, oh man, this is a buying opportunity. I'm going to buy at 270. Okay. Then it dropped to 180. Okay. I'm buying opportunity. I got to do
Mhm.
it. Then all the way down to $20, guys. So that's what happened. So you kind of want to know what kind of cycle you're in. And to me, based on my research, and listening to the experts, we are entering the new cycle of this year. We go into a bear market of 3 years, and now we're entering that bull market cycle, which is about a year and a half. And so, to me, this is a really good opportunity for everyone that's listening to kind of get started with Bitcoin, cryptos, and kind of do some research and just expose yourself just a little bit, just so you get a feel for how it is. And I would start with Bitcoin. If it were me, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, I think are the top three that,
Definitely.
people need to be exposed to. Um, but I want to ask you a question. So, I mean,
Sure.
how was your experience? I mean, buying Bitcoin, Litecoin, I mean, what did you go through? Did you do Coinbase? And what do you recommend people start doing as they're entering this place? Do you think they should just be buying those, what they call shit coins, and this or that? Or what are the fundamentally strong coins for you?
uh, Pretty much exactly what you said. I think Bitcoin is the daddy. Bitcoin is everyone should hold some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
After that, Ethereum has some interesting things going for it. I think probably the most important aspect of Ethereum is it's kind of like the first, or one of the first to market when it comes to like the whole DeFi thing.
Yeah.
So I think simply for being like one of the first, they're like the Lindy effect is gonna start unraveling, and
Yeah.
I think Ethereum is probably gonna, even though I don't own any Ethereum, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be here for a good while. And Litecoin simply for its history. I mean, I
Yeah.
really think anything that's good for Bitcoin is good for Litecoin, even though a lot of people, I mean, unfortunately, Litecoin doesn't get so much attention, but as long as Bitcoin keeps on going up, I really think that's indirectly going to be good for Litecoin because they're so interconnected.
Agreed. So if you could explain to me, Bitcoin in the most, simple way, how would you explain to a person walking around that you don't know and they want to know something about Bitcoin? How do you explain Bitcoin to them? What is it? Why is it so valuable? And how can you explain it to them?
I think probably the simplest way to explain it would be, I mean, it's basically money that the government can't control. And I always have to bring the government into the discussion because, I mean, for example, here in the area where I live, there's a lot of international people, like
Right.
a lot of people, they're probably not even natively from the city where I'm at. Like there's, for example, heavy Latino population and all that. And
Right.
one of the best use cases is being able to send Bitcoin, for example, across the border without having to pay like a ridiculous wire transfer,
Right.
And I think even just mentioning that to them, like, hey, like you can send your Bitcoin from here to your family in Mexico or to your family in Central America for like a few cents or a few dollars for like a massive transaction. Right. They're already like, huh, really?
Yeah, it's nuts.
And it's something like so simple. Like, but yeah, I mean, I think for somebody to really understand Bitcoin, you first kind of have to go into the history of what money actually is. Like, exactly. Like you have to ask them what actually is a dollar bill, like why is the dollar bill that you have in your wallet worth anything at all in the first place? So I think that's really the only way for somebody to really understand it is going back.
Just to kind of get started. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I find it hard to explain it. Like, I mean, there's been multiple times where I'm with my fiance and her family members, grandparents and stuff, and they ask me about Bitcoin, and it kind of throws me off. I'm like, oh shit, like I don't know. And then I kind of explain it to them, and now that we're here, I kind of have time to think about it. But in my opinion, the thing that drives me into Bitcoin is, number one, understanding the issue that exists with the current monetary system and with money. Mm-hmm. And that problem is that for the past 30 years or so, ever since we got off the gold standard, we have been seeing our purchasing power being devalued. And that is because the government and the Federal Reserve have had the opportunity to print away trillions of dollars, devaluing the purchasing power. Because as this money enters the system, this money that they print is not going to the average person. They're not giving you checks for every $1 trillion that they give you. This money gets put directly into the private banks, whether that's Chase or, Bank of America. And supposedly this money is supposed to be spurring economic activity because the banks are supposed to lend it out so that people can buy houses, buy cars, move all this capital around. But a lot of the things that happen is they actually end up using that same thing, that money, either to buy their own stock or to pump up the stock market. And so the first people that get a hold of this money that is being printed are the rich people. And that is the one thing that I totally hate about the current system. Yeah. And to me, it kind of makes me mad, and then it kind of brings me to Bitcoin. And then I start to realize, wow, we need something that's not controlled by the government. Because if you think about it, especially this past year alone with the pandemic, the first thing that happened was the Federal Reserve and the government printed trillions of dollars, and they pumped the stock market. Mm-hmm. We are literally sitting at the highest levels ever recorded in history in the S&P 500 and stock market, in the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And so you think about that and you're like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Why is the stock market, why are the rich getting richer? And everyone else, no one's pumping our wallets. I mean, luckily we are getting, a few stimulus checks, whatever, but it's nothing compared to what's happening with the stock market. And I talked about this in my previous podcast. Guys, the top 10% of the U.S. own 50% of all assets. and that is real estate, that's stocks, those are commodities, and maybe some Bitcoin. And the bottom 50% only own about 2% of all assets. And so it's a huge wealth disparity, guys, because the money that is being printed is only benefiting that top 10%, inflating all these hard assets. And to me, that's a wake-up call. I'm like, okay, well, definitely the system has always been in favor of Wall Street, not Main Street. So they're devaluing my worthless cash that's just sitting in my bank account, earning 0.001%. What can I do to get out of the system? And to me, Bitcoin is the exit to this rigged system. It offers that opportunity to just exit it and actually, preserve your purchasing power, your wealth, because Bitcoin over time goes up in value. And to me, I think a lot of people are realizing, because we have the big institutions that are coming in, PayPal, who added, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Trash, and then I don't know what else.
I like the name.
So, we're seeing that the institutions are getting in and the infrastructure is getting built around. And so to me, that's why I want to do this podcast, because everyone needs to understand that, the infrastructure is getting built and smart people are realizing that Bitcoin is a store of value. Litecoin will offer a great opportunity to be a means of transaction. And I think it's huge. I mean, that is why I'm pretty pumped about Bitcoin, Litecoin. But I don't know if you've thought about it that way. I'm pretty sure you have. I mean, I'm pretty sure almost every Bitcoin guy out there has kind of had that same idea of like, there's a problem right now. How do we fix it? And to me, I see Bitcoin as the exit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, earlier this year, right now that you were mentioning stocks hitting all-time highs, I think it was during the summer or maybe a little after, like October-ish around there, I don't remember, when Bitcoin was still pretty low. I mean, nowhere near where it is today. That I was constantly putting like stocks are at all-time high, real estate is at all-time high, Bitcoin is not even close to all-time high. But unfortunately, you can't really say that anymore today, since Bitcoin already blew past its all-time high, and Ethereum just broke its all-time high. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But now Litecoin is the one that we can say, hey, Litecoin is not even close to its all-time high yet. So maybe that's a good entrance. Who knows?
No, and I think it is huge. And this is something that's funny to me. I tried I actually started a newsletter, I think 3 months ago, when I realized, okay, Bitcoin, this is it. Like we really got to get in now. And yeah. I made this newsletter so I can, kind of write, a letter and send it out every week to, just average people. And I was explaining, guys, there's going to be a gold rush event that's going to happen for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was around like $15,000 when I, wrote that newsletter. And I'm like, the price is going to explode. And no one really understood, right? No one kind of gets it. And still, even right now, as Bitcoin is at like what? It actually crashed today a little bit, like 31,000. Like people still don't understand the magnitude of why there's going to be such a price explosion. And it already happened with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's always the leader, and it always moves first. So it reached 20,000, which was a 2017 all-time high, and then it doubled within weeks. Doubled, guys. And this is a large cap. This is, almost $1 trillion worth. And Ethereum just did the same thing. It goes through these cycles. It reaches the all-time high. I could see Ethereum doubling, from there. And the same thing is going to happen with Litecoin, guys. And, I actually made a tweet and it exploded for some reason. There was like no point to it, but I'm like, Litecoin is going to get to $1,000 before summer. Now we'll see if it actually comes true. And people were like, well, how is that possible? I'm like, you guys realize that Bitcoin's worth billions and billions of dollars, and when it reached 20,000, it doubled within weeks. And Litecoin right now is only worth about $10 billion. If it gets to 420, I don't see how it could not double to 840. It's just simple. It's market cycles, and the fundamentals for Litecoin are really strong. And I don't know. I'm sure you share the same ideas of the price explosion that's going to happen. But I wanted to ask you about Litecoin. So you made a tweet, and I kind of like that. how you laid it out. So you were basically talking about all the strong fundamentals and utility that's coming from Litecoin. So I kind of want to hear a little bit about, is there, could you name a few and why Litecoin has such a bullish case coming into, 2021?
Yeah, so 2021 is probably going to be a really big year because Mimblewimble is going to most likely be launched in a few months, hopefully.
And so,
Right now, it's still
sorry to
yeah.
interrupt.
Go.
So, could you explain in just the simplest terms what Mimblewimble would do to Litecoin for the people that are listening?
Yeah. So Mimblewimble, it's so imagine like the Litecoin blockchain being just like literally a chain, like links, transactions. The Mimblewimble is pretty much going to be like an adjacent chain where you can send your transactions from the Litecoin main chain over to the Mimblewimble chain, and basically you can hide transaction amounts. So Mimblewimble, it's a combination of work done by some of the most popular Bitcoin developers ever, like Greg Maxwell, who Greg Maxwell has done so much for Bitcoin. He did confidential transactions. I don't remember exact. No, I don't think he did extension blocks. I think that was a different developer. Basically, Greg Maxwell, he's like a god when it comes to Bitcoin development.
Yeah,
he's done a lot for the network, and he is one of the main guys who did confidential transactions, which is an aspect of Mimblewimble. Like Mimblewimble contains confidential transactions in it, and basically, this technology has been in development for many years, and it's finally going to be implemented onto one of the main cryptocurrencies, which is Litecoin. So I think simply having hidden transaction amounts is simply a huge plus, because imagine all the whales in the crypto world who are moving coins from one wallet to another, and everyone is analyzing these transactions, right? I mean, if you go on Twitter and you follow the account, I think it's called like whale tracker or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you can see everybody who's moving transactions from point A to point B. I mean, it's cool to watch, but it's not the best, right? If you're the person sending the money. So I think that is a huge deal for Mimblewimble on Litecoin, that there's a way to hide how much you're moving. So and that might take some money from other privacy coins into Litecoin. Even though Mimblewimble's not the highest level of privacy, it's still like a decent amount.
Still offers some. Yep. Got it.
So maybe people will start moving things over to Litecoin instead of, say, Zcash or Dash, or possibly more Monero, even though Monero is still the king of privacy.
Got it. And then any other things that you see strong coming from Litecoin for 2021?
I saw the other day in Litecoin's GitHub that it looks like they're going to try implementing CTV, which is called Check Template Verify. It's this technology for like smart contracts where you can. I still haven't gone too far into it, but from what I gather is that you can kind of like time transactions. Like if you want to send, it's just like one of the little things you can do is like if you want to send a Litecoin to a wallet over a certain period of time, you can do it. So it does it automatically, like every day, just on its own, just like that kind of smart contract. And I believe it also helps with congestion. It helps put transactions together so it doesn't occupy as much block space, if I'm not mistaken.
Got it. Okay.
It's just like little. I haven't read too much into it, but from what I read, that's one of the cool things.
Here's what I would say too about Litecoin. Litecoin's been around for almost a decade. It's been here since the early stages of crypto. It has had 100% uptime, so it's never been down. And what else? I mean, there's too many good things about Litecoin. It now has the Visa card to where you can directly use your Litecoin with that Visa card everywhere you go. So you can actually spend it. And the fact that it is proof of work, meaning it has that scarcity aspect to it as well. There's only 84 million Litecoins that are going to be in existence. And so you can count that if you do store your money in Litecoin, it is not going to be devalued by someone pumping, trillions of Litecoins into the system, right? So that's kind of one of the big reasons why I like Litecoin as well. Okay, so I think we're reaching our limit. So if there is, I'm gonna finish you off with a couple questions. So when you hear, so tell me one word when you hear Bitcoin. Go. One word. The first word that comes to your mind. Gold. Okay.
Yeah.
Gold. Is that because of the scarcity aspect? It's scarce, store value.
Digital gold. I don't know. It's just like such like it's marketed so much that it's just like the first thing that comes to my mind. Bitcoin
Okay.
gold.
Next one. Ripple XRP.
Scam.
That's usually what I get. All right. Stock market.
Bubble.
I did a video yesterday, and my mom literally said the exact same things.
Seriously?
That's hilarious. All right. Peter Schiff. What's your words?
If it's just one word, that's a little difficult. Bitcoin holder. I think he Yeah.
Okay. He's pretty cool. Well, he asks, what is your favorite book? And just describe it in like maybe 3 sentences. Favorite book that you recommend people to read?
I don't think I have a favorite book, but there are some that I feel are like they kind of stick with you, even though like some are just like super short. Just so the simple message just kind of sticks with you. And I think this year that one has been. It's actually a Bitcoin book, but it's called "This Book Will Save You Time."
Huh.
I think it's written by I think his name's Monsieur Mamudov. Okay. It's kind of a Bitcoin book, but at the same time, it's not. It's just like a little short story of how time is so essential and how we shouldn't be wasting our time on dumb little things, and why it's so dumb to be working so hard to receive, for example, an inflationary currency when you could be receiving Bitcoin because Bitcoin respects your time. It's a deflationary currency over time. It's a pretty cool book.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is exactly what it is, right? Because our hard-earned dollars, our wealth that we earn, is devalued. Our system does not respect our time and our effort put into this. So I think that's a great way to end this episode, man. Thanks for coming, and I hope we talk again, and I'll bring you to the show one more time or so.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.